Inside this jar is not merely a serving of juicy beef, it represents your personal insurance policy for a future where the power might go out tomorrow and the grocery store shelves could sit entirely empty. Today, I am going to demonstrate a forgotten preservation technology dating back to the 1930s. This specific method allows meat to be stored for up to 2 years right in your kitchen cupboard, requiring absolutely no refrigeration and no electrical power. For this process, I am utilizing 3 pounds of bone-in beef short ribs. You might wonder why I chose this specific cut. In survival conditions, expensive lean cuts like tenderloin are practically useless. We specifically require the fat and the bone. During the long, slow cooking process, the bone, the marrow and the connective tissues will transform into a powerful gelatin. This gelatin is exactly what will create the natural barrier necessary to prevent the meat from spoiling over time. We begin by preparing a dry rub. It is essential to use a significant amount of paprika and black pepper, along with a couple of generous tablespoons of salt. In this application, salt is not present just for flavor. It serves as the world's oldest and most reliable preservative. We start the process by aggressively rubbing these spices directly into the fibers of the meat. You must not simply sprinkle the spices on top. You need to literally rub them in with force. We need the salt to penetrate deep into the interior of the meat to begin drawing out any excess moisture. Many people today continue to live in a state of illusion, hoping that by tomorrow everything in the world will simply sort itself out. But what about you? Are you truly taking steps to prepare for a crisis by stocking up, or are you just sitting back and waiting for the trouble to pass you by? I want you to write honestly in the comments section. Let us see who is truly ready and who is merely hoping for the best. Show your flag and state which country you are from, where you are already prepared. Now, we are going to employ a brilliant trick that our great-grandfathers used during the era of the Great Depression. First, we carefully place each individual piece of meat into its own separate bag. You must ensure that you do not lose any of that precious flavor. Scrape up every last bit of the remaining spices from the cutting board and pour them directly into the bags. Back in the 1930s, people did not possess expensive modern equipment, but they understood that in an environment without air, spices can penetrate the meat 3 times faster and much deeper than usual. They had to be resourceful to ensure their food lasted and tasted incredible. So how did they manage to create a vacuum seal without the use of electricity? The method is actually very simple. Once everything has been placed inside the bag, we simply lower it into a bowl filled with ice-cold water. The natural pressure of the water instantly forces all of the air out of the bag, creating a perfect, cost-free vacuum seal. Furthermore, the ice-cold temperature of the water works to close the pores of the meat, effectively locking all of the natural juices inside. We tie the bags up tightly and leave them to rest in the refrigerator for 2 hours. While the meat is resting, we take half a cup of rice and make sure to wash it thoroughly under ice-cold water. This step is critically important to the success of the recipe. We need to wash every bit of the starch dust off the grains. If you leave the starch on the rice, it will eventually turn into a thick, sticky paste inside the jar, which will ruin the entire canning process. 2 hours have now passed, and I want you to take a very close look at the results. Notice how the color of the meat has completely changed to a deep, rich red. The meat has released its natural juices, which have mixed with the salt and paprika to create a thick, natural marinade. The salt has already begun its curing work, drawing out excess moisture and making the meat much firmer. Every single fiber is now perfectly marinated from the inside out. Now we bring a skillet to an extremely high heat. We throw in a good solid chunk of butter. It is imperative that you use butter for this step. The fat from the butter will add necessary calories and help to increase the overall shelf life of the finished product. We sear the meat for exactly 1.5 minutes on each side. Our objective at this moment is not to cook the meat through, but rather to seal it. This searing process creates a crust that will lock all of the meat juices inside each piece. We also throw in whole garlic cloves and black peppercorns to provide aroma. You should hear a loud, distinct sizzle and see a beautiful, dark brown color forming immediately. We then pour water over all of these ingredients and leave the mixture to simmer for exactly 15 minutes. This short simmering process will provide us with a rich, flavorful broth that is absolutely essential for preserving the meat inside the jars. While that simmering process is underway, we must sterilize our jars. There can be no compromises on this step. We place the jars in the oven at 250 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 minutes. Even one single invisible bacterium can turn your entire survival stash into a jar of poison. Our 15 minutes are now up. Look at this magnificent piece of meat. Thanks to the addition of the paprika and the quick searing process, it has taken on a rich, deep brown color. The aroma filling the kitchen is simply unbelievable. The meat is now ready to be packed into the jars. This is where the most interesting part begins, the correct assembly of the ingredients. At the very bottom of the jar, we drop in the garlic cloves and the pepper. Next, we add a couple of spoons of our washed rice. Why is it absolutely necessary for the rice to be at the bottom? It is because we will now place the meat directly on top of it. While in the oven, the beef fat and the juices will melt and drip downward. The rice will act as a sponge, soaking up all of this delicious meat extract. If you were to put the rice on top, it would simply dry out and burn. We then pour in all of the broth that remains in the skillet. This broth is essentially liquid gold. It contains all of the melted fat, the spices, and the collagen from the bone, which will transform into a rich jelly as it cools down. This jelly naturally protects our food from spoiling. This is just one forgotten trick. If you are interested in building a real food arsenal, you should check out my book, Survival Kitchen 1930. It contains over 100 recipes that require no refrigerator and have no expiration date. The link can be found in the description. Get your copy now and be truly prepared. We cover the jars with foil and poke a couple of small holes to allow the steam to escape. Why don't we simply twist on the metal lids right now? Doing so would be a rookie mistake. Standard lids are equipped with a rubber seal. If you were to send them into the oven for 4 hours, that rubber would melt and deform, causing the jar to either explode or simply fail to seal hermetically. We will just throw the foil away later. We send our preparation into the oven at 275 degrees Fahrenheit for exactly 4 hours. Be sure to place parchment paper or foil underneath the jars as the juices might leak out slightly while they are boiling. This slow simmering process will kill all microorganisms and soften the bones. By the way, if you appreciate what I am doing here, please hit the like button right now. It is the best signal for me to continue filming recipes that might one day save your life. 4 hours have now passed. We take the jars out of the oven. You can see that the juice inside is still boiling. We remove and discard the foil. Now comes the critical step. We take a paper towel, dip it in white vinegar, and carefully wipe the rims of the jars. The vinegar instantly breaks down any microscopic particles of fat that might have splashed onto the glass. This is the only way to ensure we get a perfect seal. We then tightly screw on new, clean lids. Now we simply leave the jars on the table to cool down completely. As the temperature drops, a powerful vacuum will naturally form inside the jar, pulling the metal lid tightly inward. That is the definitive sign that the 1930s technology has worked flawlessly. If everything was performed correctly, you can safely put these jars away for storage in a dark, cool basement or a cupboard, and they will remain ready for you for up to 2 years. However, we are not going to wait 2 years to see the results. I will show you exactly what is inside right now. Upon opening the jar, the smell is simply incredible. We pour the contents into a bowl. Look at this texture. The rice at the bottom has transformed into the perfect side dish, completely soaked in the beef broth. And the meat simply falls apart into fibers at a single glance. This is not just survival food. This is a true restaurant-level delicacy that you have pulled out of a dark cupboard. The world today is not stable. We do not know what will happen tomorrow, what food prices will be, or if this food will even be available on the shelves at all. Every family should have at least a few of these jars stored away. This is your insurance policy that money simply cannot buy. Make this recipe over the weekend and stock up. If this forgotten history of survival has changed the way you look at the ingredients in your pantry, please subscribe to the channel and like this video. We are currently unearthing the vital secrets and history that time has tried to bury. Join us as we cultivate a more prepared future. Your next piece of hidden knowledge will be revealed very soon.